there's a difference between bringing in the Big Show, who is a big name, and like you said, if he's used sparingly in the ring, he's going to be a commentator. There's lots of different things he can do. I think it is a decent signing because he was a big name years ago.
Yeah,
it's not like, and I'm not using TNA as the kind of to throw them under the bus, but it's not like bringing in the nasty boys.
Yes, you are, Kenny.
Well, kinda, but it's not like bringing in the Nasty Boys or Mr. Kennedy when he was very clearly just he'd lost what he had. I do think there's. Before it happens, at the very least, I think this is worth a shot to see if it gets more eyes on the product. I'd like to see Paul White be involved with somebody, whether he's sort of like in a team with them or something. Like, I think he could be a good person to bounce off of because he's a very charismatic guy, not on his Netflix show, but everywhere else he seems to be. Hopefully this means that the deal with Netflix and him is done. We should support it, if only for that.
That did cross my mind as well. And, there's 5 stages of grief, Kenny. I mean, I don't know where you're at right now. I mean, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression. I think we've jumped straight to acceptance, haven't we?
We have.
And celebration. The Big Show is now officially kaput.
I did want to ask you one kind of question. So we don't know what he's going to be called yet. I mean, so far it's Paul White is All Elite, but can he be called the Giant, or do you think the WWE has the trademark on the Giant?
Well, I think they will, because they purchased obviously all the trademarks to WCW characters that weren't pre-owned by wrestlers. So they probably do have that. I mean, to me, he should stick with Paul White. That's his real name. We all know that's his real name. And
it's not a showbiz name, though, is it? It's not a big show. You don't have fear struck into you when you go, oh, there's Paul White. It just sounds like your dad.
Well, maybe he just needs a nickname like the Pulverizer or something like that. Paul the Pulverizer White. What do you think?
I mean, it's certainly going to get people talking. I don't know what context they're going to talk, but they're going to talk regardless. So, Paul the Pulverizer, see him tonight on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Wrestling, you can't make it up. We've got next week. We're going to have the big Dynamite with Shaq on it. So you've got to assume that Shaq and Paul the Pulverizer are going to face off next week. It's going to be very hard for me to call him anything else now.
Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, it's going to stick, isn't it? I mean, that's my intellectual property. Tony Khan, if you want to license that from me, get in touch. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to come to an arrangement. You're not short of a few quid. And, well, actually, I don't mind either as well. But I could always use a little few more spondoolies, thanks. But, I guess, yeah, he will. I mean, yeah, you would think there'll be some sort of interaction next week because they've talked about this for so long, and it would just seem like a wasted opportunity if he wasn't there. And even if they don't have the intention of then doing a singles match between them at a later date, it will get people talking. And that's what it's all about. I mean, obviously, we know that's why Shaq's there, to drive up viewing figures, get more people who don't currently watch AEW to watch Dynamite. And if they do the angle with Shaq and Big Show, that's going to be good for some, Twitter activity and, fantasy booking. And, even if people are knocking it, it's still people talking about AEW, isn't it? So, I mean, surely it will happen.
Yeah, we've said before they need some more mainstream names, and he is a more mainstream name than, because it's not like a lot of the guys in the last 10 years, haven't really been mainstream names. So it's difficult, unless you can sign a John Cena. If they sign John Cena, I would die. Can you imagine? I mean, that podcast would be worth its weight. I'd put that behind Patreon. I'd be like, new level, $100 to listen to Finn's instant reaction to the
John
big GC.
I mean, John Cena versus the Young Bucks. I mean, it could be the wrestling equivalent of Armageddon, couldn't it? My two least favourite acts of all time going head to head in the ring. John Cena or the Young Bucks.
Who do you think would sell more, the Young Bucks or John Cena?
Well, Cena, because, he's going at Young Bucks, management. So I think they'd insist that Cena was coming in and selling. That's the way it works, isn't it?
That's the way
absolutely.
It works.
And, Young Bucks matches have to be as unrealistic as possible. So John Cena selling for them would absolutely satisfy all their requirements and everything that they expect and want from a pro wrestling match.